Hey folks, welcome back to True Crime Stories, where we cover the most thrilling true crime stories. Before we get going, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe for me. Thanks. And now let's get into today's story.
Welcome to our deep dive into Beneath the Cedar Canopy.
Ooh,
That's interesting.
it does, doesn't it? Yeah. So it looks like this is going to be like a real-life thriller. Um, in the Pacific Northwest, we've got this small town. They've had all these people who've gone missing, and then human remains are found in like an old-growth cedar forest.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So where do we even start?
Well, I mean, finding the remains is definitely a turning point, but for this town, the mystery started way before that.
Yeah, you're right. This forest has a history. People have been uneasy about it for a long time.
That's true.
Like it's holding on to secrets.
It is, yeah. And finding those bones just makes everybody more scared.
Yeah, makes sense.
Okay. Let's start by talking about the woman who found the bones, Clara Hargrove.
Okay.
She is a big environmentalist,
Okay.
and she's been leading the fight against illegal logging in the area, which has made her some enemies.
Ah, so she's not afraid to be in the middle of things.
No, she's not. So even before this crime is discovered, it sounds like there's already a lot of tension in this town.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
And that tension is really important to the story.
Okay.
You know, you have the environmentalists who want to protect the forest, and then the loggers whose jobs depend on using the forest.
It's like that age-old thing, like progress versus protecting nature.
Exactly. But then it gets dark.
Okay.
And that's where Detective Lena Darnell comes in.
Okay.
She is an investigator, a really good one. She's really good at solving even really cold cases.
Yeah.
But this one's personal for her.
Oh, how so?
Her sister disappeared in these same woods years ago.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and she's never gotten over it.
So she's not just solving this case, she's facing her own past, too.
Exactly. And that makes everything even more complicated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got Clara, who finds the crime scene, and Lena, who has this really personal connection to the case. Who else is involved in all of this?
Okay, well, there's Tom Williams. He's a former logger turned conservationist.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So he understands both sides of the issue.
He does. He really does. But he's also dealing with his own loss.
Oh,
His friend disappeared in the forest, too.
wow. This forest has really taken a toll on this town.
Yeah, it has.
Okay.
And then there's Eric McMahon.
Okay.
He's a young logger, really ambitious, and he wants to bring back the logging industry.
Okay.
He sees the environmentalists, especially Clara, as a threat.
So I imagine there's some bad blood between them.
You could say that. Eric represents a lot of people who feel like conservation efforts are hurting them, you know?
Yeah. It's a tough situation.
It is.
It's like everyone is already at their breaking point.
Exactly. And then we have this character, Bobby Crane.
Okay.
She owns the only diner in town.
Okay.
She's a really sharp observer, always listening to the gossip.
Oh, she's like the keeper of all the town secrets.
That's her. And
Yeah.
then there's Jake Carson. He's a drifter, kind of trouble. He gets into trouble, especially when he drinks.
Oh, so he's kind of a wild card in all of this.
Exactly. And he knows both the loggers and the environmentalists, which makes him even more of a mystery.
Wow. Okay, so we've got all these characters, all with their own baggage and secrets. They're all tied to this forest in some way. But how does it all connect? Like, what does Clara actually find out there?
Okay, so Clara is out in the woods, you know, documenting illegal logging.
Oh, yeah.
She's trying to get evidence, but she also feels like she's being watched.
Like someone's following her.
Exactly. And then she comes across this campsite. It's totally abandoned. And she realizes that something bad happened there.
Oh, no.
Yeah, the tent is messed up. There's clothes everywhere. And she sees blood on the ground.
Oh, my gosh.
And then she finds human bones. They're buried under a cedar tree.
Ugh, that's scary.
It is. And then it gets worse.
What could be worse?
She finds a camera and she develops the film, and it's full of pictures of the missing campers. They look happy, like they're having a good time, but then
Then what? What's in the last photo?
it's creepy. It's someone staring right at the camera.
Oh, no.
Yeah, their eyes are wide with fear, and it looks like they're trying to grab the camera to stop something from happening.
That's terrifying. So, does she know who these people are?
At first, no. The photos just show the campers, not who they are.
So she has all this evidence, but no idea who the victims are.
Right. It's a real mystery.
What does she do?
She calls a town meeting.
Okay.
She wants to tell everyone what she's found.
To warn them.
Yeah, to warn them, but also to get them to work together.
Okay.
She's like, this is bigger than just the environment. This is about everyone's safety.
But everyone's already so suspicious of each other.
Exactly.
What happens at the meeting?
It's intense. Eric and his people accuse Clara of making stuff up.
Oh, wow. Really?
Yeah. They say she's trying to cause trouble.
Do they think she's involved?
Maybe. They just don't trust her. They think she's an outsider.
Okay, so what about Tom? Where does he stand on all of this?
Well, Tom, he's really shaken up by what Clara found.
Yeah.
He defends her. He's like, you guys need to listen to her. This is serious.
I bet that didn't go over well.
Not really. He knows the forest. He knows these loggers. He knows something bad is going on.
Okay, so the meeting just makes everything worse.
Yeah, pretty much. But it does get the attention of the local sheriff.
And he brings in Detective Darnell.
He does. The town is freaking out, so he has to do something.
Yeah, I can see that.
And as we know, this case is really personal for her.
Yeah, it's more than just another case for her.
Right, and she's a great detective, so it's like perfect but terrifying, you know?
It's intense. Okay, so we've got the town, everyone's scared and suspicious, a crime scene, and all these characters with their own secrets.
It's a lot.
It is. So what happens next? How does the investigation start?
Okay, well, let's talk about what happens right after they find the bodies. That's where the real detective work starts. They have to look at all the clues and figure out what really happened in that forest.
Okay, this is getting good. I'm hooked. Last time, we left off with Detective Darnell stepping into this mess, right? This town is a powder keg, everybody's scared, and she's got this crime scene that's raising more questions than answers. So many people could be involved. Like, what are her first steps? How does she even start to unravel this?
Well, she's got a community that's totally on edge, right? And a crime scene that's given them more questions than answers. And then there's all these potential suspects. And each one has their own connection to the forest and to its, dark past.
It's like trying to solve a puzzle, but the pieces keep changing. So, like, where does she even start?
She starts by going back to that crime scene,
Yeah.
with the forensics team.
Okay, makes sense.
And they just go over everything. The position of the bones, the stuff that was scattered around, those creepy photos from that camera. Remember those photos showed us like the last moments of those victims, but we still don't know who they are.
Yeah, right. Those were creepy. So, are they able to figure out who the victims are?
They are, but it takes a while. It takes some real detective work.
Okay.
They use those photos, plus they look at missing person reports. And they get some really sharp observations from Clara, and they finally figure out who those missing campers are.
Okay, so now they've got names and faces to go with the mystery. Does that help them narrow down who might have done it?
It does, but it also makes things more complicated.
How so?
Remember how Clara found that camera?
Yeah.
Well, when they develop more of the photos, they notice something strange.
Okay, what is it?
One of the pictures shows Clara arguing with the campers.
Hold on, so Clara actually knew these people?
Yeah, she did.
Okay, that changes things.
It does. The photo doesn't tell us what they were arguing about, but it's clear that they knew each other.
Yeah.
So now it's like, maybe Clara is involved somehow, or at least she knows something.
Right, it's like our environmental crusader might have some secrets of her own.
Exactly.
Okay, so what else is going on?
Well, while this is happening, the forensics team is looking at all the evidence they got from that campsite. And they find something interesting in the soil samples.
The soil. Really? What do they find?
Chemicals. The kind of chemicals that people use to hide illegal logging.
So this connects the crime scene to the very thing Clara was trying to stop.
Right.
So maybe we were right to be suspicious of the logging industry.
It's starting to look that way. And this makes Lena take a closer look at Eric McMahon. Remember him. He's the ambitious logger, the one who had a shaky alibi, the one who saw Clara as a threat.
Yeah.
Yeah. And as Lena looks into him, things get even more interesting.
I bet they do.
Remember those phone calls he was making during that town meeting? Well, it turns out he was talking to some shady characters, guys known for poaching and doing other illegal stuff in the forest.
So he's connected to a whole network of bad guys.
Yeah, it's like peeling back the layers of a criminal onion. And then there are those GPS records from the logging trucks.
Yeah.
Well, those records show that Eric was near the campsite around the time those campers disappeared.
So he's lying about not being involved. But does that mean he hurt them?
That's what Lena is trying to figure out. So she confronts Eric with this new evidence, but he sticks to his story.
Oh, really?
Yeah. He says he was just in the area because he wanted to scare off some trespassers.
Does he really expect anyone to believe that?
Lena doesn't buy it for a second. She knows he's hiding something. And then, just when she thinks she's hit a dead end, Eric says something really shocking.
What? He confesses.
Not exactly. He says he saw another group of men arguing with the campers right before they disappeared.
Okay.
He says they looked rough, not like they were from the town, and he says he heard them talking about drugs and money.
So now we're not just talking about illegal logging anymore. Now there are drug dealers in the mix.
Yeah, things just got way more complicated.
Who are these guys?
Yeah.
And what do they have to do with the missing campers?
Those are the questions Lena has to answer.
This is getting more and more intriguing. It started with a missing persons case, and now it's like something out of a movie.
Right. It's a whole big conspiracy, and it just keeps getting bigger.
So what does Lena do with this new information?
Well, she knows she has to be careful. This isn't just a small-town crime anymore.
Right.
She's dealing with organized crime, maybe even corruption in the local government.
So she can't just go in all guns blazing.
Exactly. She needs to figure out a way to back up Eric's story about these drug dealers.
Yeah.
And she has to do it without tipping off the people she's trying to catch.
It's a high-stakes game.
It really is. And just when she's starting to make a plan, she gets a call from Tom, the ex-logger.
Oh, the one who lost his friend in the woods.
Yeah, that's him. He's been doing some investigating on his own, talking to people in the logging community, trying to figure out what's really going on.
Okay.
And he tells Lena that he's heard rumors about a group of guys who've been using those logging roads for more than just hauling timber.
Are we talking about the same guys Eric saw?
It's starting to look that way.
Okay.
Tom says these guys are dangerous, heavily armed, and he says they're connected to a local crime boss, a guy who's known for running drugs and other shady stuff.
So it's not just a few rogue loggers, it's a whole organized crime ring.
That's right. And Lena knows she's onto something big, something that could expose a huge criminal operation.
This is intense. She's going up against some really powerful people.
She is. And she has to be incredibly careful. One wrong move could put her and her team in danger.
So what does she do?
She decides to keep things quiet for now. She's working with a small group of people she trusts, and they're trying to get enough evidence to take down the whole operation.
Oh, wow. So it's like a secret mission.
Basically. She's considered bringing in the FBI, you know.
Yeah.
But she thinks that could backfire. It could tip off the suspects and make things even more dangerous.
So she has to play it smart.
Yeah, she needs to find a way to get inside this criminal network, to gather evidence and expose what's going on, and she thinks she knows just the person who can help her do it.
Wait a minute. Don't tell me it's Jake.
You got it! Our unpredictable wild card.
But Jake is a mess. He's got his own issues, and he can barely remember what day it is, let alone what happened that night in the woods.
That's true. He's definitely a risk. But Lena sees something in him, like a little bit of good, you know? And she has a feeling he might hold the key to figuring out this whole thing.
Okay, now I'm really curious. How does she plan to use Jake to bring down this whole criminal empire?
Well, that's where things get really interesting. She's got a plan, but it's risky. It involves trust, manipulation, and a whole lot of deception.
So we left off with Detective Darnell about to pull off this really risky plan, using Jake, right, our drifter, to try and take down this whole criminal network. What's the plan? How does it work?
Yeah, it's a big gamble. Jake's dealing with addiction, and his memory is, like, fuzzy. But Lena, she's good at reading people, you know?
Yeah.
She sees that under all that rough stuff, there's some good in him.
So she's going to appeal to that good side.
Yeah, exactly. Instead of, just arresting him, she offers him a deal.
A deal. Okay, what kind of deal?
She promises to help him, get back on his feet if he helps her with the case.
Okay.
She reminds him that those campers had families who want answers. And she's like, maybe by helping her, he can, make up for some of the bad stuff he's done.
It's a long shot, but I guess it could work.
And it does. Jake agrees to help.
Wow. Didn't see that coming.
Yeah, it's a shaky alliance built on, desperation and wanting to do the right thing.
So how does she get him to remember what happened, to get to the truth?
First, she makes sure Jake feels safe. She gets him a room at a motel, clean clothes, food. She knows that for his memory to come back, he needs to feel okay.
Makes sense. It's like she's putting together a puzzle, piece by piece.
Right. And as Jake starts to get better, those memories, they start to come back.
This is it, right? The truth is coming out. What does he remember?
He remembers those men that Eric talked about, the ones who confronted the campers. He remembers seeing them force those campers into a truck at gunpoint. And he remembers the truck going into the forest toward this place called the Devil's Backbone.
The Devil's Backbone. That sounds creepy. What is that, like a local legend?
It's more than a legend. It's like this maze of old logging roads, really dangerous with cliffs and thick trees. And it's where illegal logging has been going on for years.
So the perfect place to hide something, right?
Exactly. It's a place where secrets go to disappear.
This is getting scary. What does Lena do with this new information?
She knows she has to act fast. Those campers could be in danger. She puts together a team. They've got tactical units. They're heavily armed, and they get ready to raid the Devil's Backbone.
Wow. A whole raid. Sounds like an action movie.
It was intense and dangerous. They found the truck that Jake described, signs of a struggle, blood, bullet casings, but the campers were gone.
Oh, no. This isn't good.
It was a big setback, but just when they were about to give up, they found something they didn't expect, a bunch of bunkers hidden in the cliffs.
Bunkers. What was in them?
What they found was way worse than they thought. It wasn't just drugs and illegal logging. It was human trafficking, money laundering. It was huge, way bigger than that small town.
This is insane. It's like a conspiracy thriller.
It was. They found out that corrupt officials, business leaders, even some law enforcement were involved.
This is way bigger than those missing campers now.
Right. It was shocking. It showed how dark things were in this town and how far people would go to keep their secrets.
So what happens? Does Lena call in the FBI?
She does. The FBI gets involved and they take down the whole operation. There are raids, arrests, evidence is seized. They finally figure out what happened to those campers.
So justice is served.
It's a mixed bag. They don't get the campers back, but at least the people responsible are held accountable.
What about the people we've been talking about? What happens to them?
Eric, he loses everything. His business, his reputation, his freedom.
He built an empire on lies.
Yeah.
It all fell apart.
Yeah. And Tom, he keeps fighting for the forest. He works with Clara and other activists to come up with a sustainable logging plan.
That's good to hear. He's trying to protect the place that took his friend.
Right. And Bobby, she keeps running her diner. She still hears all the town gossip, but now she knows how dangerous secrets can be.
Yeah, she's seen the dark side of this town.
Yeah.
What about Jake?
Lena kept her promise. She helped him get into rehab, and he starts to get better.
That's great. Shows that even in a mess like this, there's hope.
It does. And you know what's even more amazing? Jake becomes a voice for the forest.
What?
Yeah. He uses his story to talk about addiction, about protecting the environment, about forgiveness.
Wow. From drifter to environmental hero.
Yeah, it shows how strong people can be, how they can change, even after going through something terrible.
So the case is closed, the bad guys are caught, even Jake gets a second chance. But what about Detective Darnell? Does she ever find out what happened to her sister?
No, sadly she doesn't. The investigation didn't give her any answers about her sister. But solving this case, getting justice for those campers, it gives her some peace.
Yeah, it's like she honored her sister by fighting for others.
Exactly. And the forest, the place where this all started, it becomes a place for healing, a place to remember.
It shows that even in the darkest times, there's hope.
Ah.
We've been on a wild ride with this deep dive. Betrayal, lies, and finally, justice.
It shows us how complicated people are, how we have to balance progress and nature, and how important it is to protect both the environment and each other.
Beneath the Cedar Canopy is more than a crime story. It's a look at ourselves, the choices we make, what happens because of them, and how powerful hope can be.
The case may be over, but we're left thinking about how to balance what we need with what nature needs and how our actions affect others.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into Beneath the Cedar Canopy. It's been a journey through some dark stuff, but it also shows that the truth always comes out.